It may be October 1st, but it's a muggy 20 and 70 out there. So I think it's a good day for another nice batch of iced tea. Get some cubes out of the freezer. A little bit strong probably, but by the time it melts in some ice cubes, it'd be right to my liking. Certainly not a day for heading to the woods with a chainsaw working really hard. Well, with those rains that we got last week, we got a little bit of water flowing out of this little old stream that it had stopped with that rain. It started up again. For times when it's deeper, I got this cedar log bridge I put on. Nice and dry right now. Usually it's kind of slimy on top, and you take your chances walking across, but not very far down anyway. So this is the route that we hauled all those logs out with the snow dog last winter. You can see a little bit of the rut, a little bit where we cut in a little bit with all the trips we made back and forth. It really worked well. We pulled a fair amount of logs out of back in there that I'd cut down the previous spring and got peeled. So now I have a access lane to get back in there to some more of them if I want to. But our main harvest area was over this way a little ways. There were a few along in these areas, but here's another logging road that we had in to haul timber out of back in that little section. Remember, we had some pretty good piles back in there. We were really kind of surprised that we got them all out. Then over here was where the project had gotten started, and when I got the project started, we were out here in about 7 inches of water working all the time, because this is really a low spot right here. And then the trees kind of were in a ring around it. But as I peeled all that and we cut all the upper branches off, now I got a mat I can actually walk on as I go across there. But looking over here, you can't really tell it that well, but there's some of the tamarack that I didn't take, and they've died from that insect since I was in here working. So I really got the trees that I wanted out of this spot just in time. But now next spring I want to go down the trail this way further, and there's some more really nice ones down there that I want to get cut. I can show you here. This is what these trees look like when they first die, because the insects are in there under the bark or whatever, and then the woodpeckers come along and they really get in there and they peel all of the bark off, getting after the insects. And so that's what they look like when they first die. But then within about a year, the woodpeckers no longer have an interest in them. This tree was kind of interesting. I just noticed that up on top, it's still got the needles. They've turned yellow a little earlier than they should have, but that tree has just succumbed to those insects in the last month. There's a lot more of these really nice tamarack along this old roadway here through the swamp. Now you can see that's a pretty good sized tree. I'll probably take the bottom 14 feet and cut that into floorboards and roof boards, and maybe be able to get another log for the wall out further up. But there's another one right there, really nice, and that tree that just died there, I got to get at it because that disease is moving through. There's some real buttes down this lane. It'll be a job to move some of them, but the old dog will do it. These are some real beauty of some tamarack trees, and I think if I count the rings on these, they're only going to be 70 years old, because that's when this area was logged, and the cedars aren't near as big, but the cedars have come back in so thick that, if I just had the time, I would come in and I would thin out these cedars and leave the nicest, straightest ones to grow, and they'd really be some good timber in the years to come. And then I could use all of the smaller cedar, and I could make this road around here is really wet and boggy, but there's enough cedar that just needs to be thinned out that I could make a real nice corduroy road down through this stretch. It might happen someday, but not in the agenda for a few years. As I come by, I always stop and check the camera and see if there's been anything by, and I know this time my buddy's out hunting yesterday. There's probably quite a few scenes to get rid of on here, so I'll get rid of them. Whoa! Got a big bear walking right by here, since I was by last anyway. Check this out. This is that trail we were clearing with the chainsaw the other day, and got that things out of the way so I could bring that big walk behind mower through and get all this knocked down in this area. I've never had a real lawnmower in here in all the years I've been back here, but getting around, the trails are smoother, and we can get one back in here now. It really makes it nice and a lot faster than just using the brush saw. And trail that way heads up toward the spring. Got to get my signs fixed. Bears keep tearing them up. But then this is a direct route over to Hawks Pond, and I mowed that down as far as, so it started getting rough, and then there'll be one area in there I do need to use the brush saw on yet. It's just too much work trying to get a wheeled mower through there. It sure is nice. We're on the trail that eventually goes up to where the spring where I get my water. I didn't bring any jugs along or a pack today. I just have an enjoyable day today. Here, I mean, underneath you can't see the corduroy, but there's wood logs that we're walking on that go across, and then I really like this spot because this is where the little brook comes across. It comes from the spring, and they actually have a bridge built here which has survived for, well, I suppose it's been there for 100 years now. The logs and the cross pieces here have held up. I'm sure they used cedar when they did it, otherwise they would have fallen in by now, but this little flowage coming out of the spring heads on down south and helps feed some of those beaver dams down that way. It gives them water all the time. Even in drought times like this, they got some water to back up and have good habitat. This is certainly the year of the mushroom. Exceedingly dry up until August, then they got rains in August, and however that worked out, the mushrooms in this forest are just all over the place. Pine squirrels will certainly enjoy it because they're hauling them off to their food stashes. Whenever I come by, I try and scoop a little debris out of the bottom of the spring to keep this area right here deep enough so even in the winter, if it freezes over, when I chop through the ice, I've got a nice reservoir of clear water down below. This water shouldn't be too bad. I've tried this in the spring sometimes when it's coming out of and oh my gosh, it's so cold you don't do very many bucketfuls, but we'll see. It's always been my dream I could stick a pipe down in there and get down there far enough it'd flow out artesian, but it's never happened. But it's really nice to always have this backup of good water. I may need to be up here the next couple of days if it doesn't rain and I get some off my eaves trough. The spores being put off with these mushrooms. It's another thing that I've never seen the ground so powdered underneath them as this year. There's definitely been a moose down this trail since the last time I was here a week ago. Very distinctive print in the mud, kicked things up through there.